So this is what if Belle had found the omnitrix, part 1. Now this is a what if I wanted to do for a good amount of time. I did it, but I didn't really like the play out or the come out of it, so I deleted it. But basically, now that I'm a little bit older, a little bit better, and a little bit more experienced with my what ifs, let's just get into it, guys. Now basically, after this what if, I will be uploading a couple other videos after this, but basically we start our story off in Belle's universe. Pretty much we start our story off on episode 1. Is it wrong to try to pick up girls in the dungeon? Pretty much season 1, episode 1. We start our story off with Belle running away from a minotaur in pretty much the labyrinth. Basically, as he's running around, he's cornered in pretty much a dark area, or he's cornered on a rock. Basically, him about to get murked by this, pretty much animal. But right when he thought he was dying, the minotaur is immediately cut, folded, and literally put to sleep by some sort of princess. And basically, or pretty much, what was it? A master sword's woman. Basically, she destroys the Minotaur, grabs the stone from the Minotaur's kill. If you've seen the anime, you know what I'm talking about. Pretty much what would happen is she would have sparked something in Belle. Belle would have felt a type of, I guess, he would have felt a type of love, or a spark between them, or he would feel a spark. As Belle would do his whole nerdy thing and would run out the labyrinth, basically well, you know, still covered in min- Minotaur blood. He would run off. Doing this, he would run off back to the bank in this universe. And pretty much what would happen is stuff would have happened, left and right. Basically, pretty much, he would have talked to the woman that was at the counter. And I have to say, I don't know why, but every girl in this anime is like a baddie, except for the girl that Belle is like, gawking over, bro. All the other girls, they fine, bro. Like, I don't understand. Like, Belle got the worst taste ever, bro. For real. But basically what happened is pretty much, Belle would have gone there. And the anime from that point would have gone exactly the same. Basically nothing really changing. In that point in time, nothing really, happening. But basically for the rest of the anime, something different would happen. Because it wouldn't be a what if, and it wouldn't be a what if. It wouldn't be a what if without something changing. Now, basically, what happened is pretty much Belle would go back to the labyrinth. Basically, going back there, pretty much what we see that pretty much Belle would pretty much start to I guess become a little bit more in this canon, since he would go back to the labyrinth after he was pretty much called out by these other people, and pretty much he would have ran off. Basically, when he would run off, we would see that pretty much Belle would have eventually came across or went into the labyrinth. As he would go into the labyrinth, something weird would have happened. Basically, on his way there, instead of him actually going in there, pretty much what would happen is things would have changed dramatically. Basically, as he was going there, he would take a shorter way there through the forest to clear his mind. Basically, as he would go there to pretty much the labyrinth, what would happen is pretty much when he got into the labyrinth, pretty much he would wake up, because he would trip on the way there. He would be knocked out for about 2 minutes, but he would get back up. As he would get back up, he would look into the stars, and he would see something going down into the forest. He would see it land, and he would be a lot more curious. Him just trying to clear his mind, so in this version, he wouldn't go into the labyrinth. He would just go back into, he wouldn't go back in the dungeon or the labyrinth. I don't know what it's called, but basically what happened is pretty much Belle would have ran down there to see what happened, to check it out. As Belle would check it out, he would look around and he would see some sort of green light in the far. basically he would go closer and closer until he found a middle orb containing some sort of well item. Now basically we switched away from this story a couple hours earlier on a different planet, a different universe, a different galaxy. As we see Azimuth pretty much build the Omnitrix, and years later, the Omnitrix is sent to Earth. But in this version, the event happens way earlier in time, or in a different universe. Basically, what would happen is, well, since this basically takes time during the, I guess, Roman or Greek period of time, pretty much what would happen is, well, so basically what would happen is during this whole time frame, the Ben 10 universe or the Ben 10 canon from the aliens' point of view, Ben Tennyson wouldn't be born or wouldn't even be born in this universe at all because, well, things would have happened because this would be a different universe, different time frame, and Azimuth would have been born decades earlier. Pretty much the Galvin species, planet, Galvin morphs, or I guess upgrades their species, and everything else would have happened a lot more earlier in this universe. Eventually, the Omnitrix still being sent to Earth to, well, a lucky few. Basically, this Omnitrix being sent to a near god on that planet. As pretty much that Omnitrix was supposed to be sent for a certain, I guess, god down on that planet on Earth. But it would be drawn to, well, Bell's DNA. Pretty much the Omnitrix would have landed. The Omnitrix would have landed, and basically Bell looking at it. As he would look at the Omnitrix, he would look closer and closer until he would fall into the crater that was there. Basically, he would fall into the crater with the middle orb, and he would look at the Omnitrix. Doing this, basically, he would look into the Omnitrix and he would reach his hand out, feeling drawn to it, feeling like he needed to touch it for some odd reason. It would latch on to Bell's arm, basically Bell trying to pry it off of his arm. As he would try to rip it off more and more, banging across the wall, he would see that it wasn't budging and it couldn't get off. Soon, Bell would have just given up, and basically just would have left it on there. As Bell would tweak with it more and more, he would open up the dial on it, and he would press down on it. Basically, him transforming into Ditto. So basically, what would happen doing this, pretty much, well, immediately, Bell would start to freak out. Him being very confused on, well, why he was this small, most stump-legged animal creature. Basically, him looking at a shattered piece of metal or pretty much, I guess, a carriage that has some sort of metal on it that had a reflection. He would look at himself in a mirror or a nearby broken down piece of metal, and basically he would see himself. He would be very confused on why he looked this way and felt this way. He felt different, but he still felt like he was the same. As Bell would start to mess around, he would start to climb on trees, and mainly Ditto's powers, his most, unique power that makes him, called Ditto, is that he can multiply himself. But on the contrary, plus that, he also has acute climbing skills. He's very much durable, and also he ain't like super durable, like what was it? He's not super durable like other Ben 10 transformations, but he's durable enough to take a few beatings. He's also a very good climber and stuff like that. So altogether, throughout the whole event, Bell being in the forest, him basically messing around, he would eventually run into a branch after he came across a wild pack of wolves, since he would wander deeper into the forest, not really knowing what direction he was going into. He would start to sprint off, basically pretty much a wolf slash, pretty much, this, if you've seen Omniverse, what was it? The three wolf creatures that are hunting Ditto during the hunting episode in Omniverse. Basically, the whole scene would have been just copied and pasted, but in anime art style, and with the wolves just being, just being more anime styled esque wolves. Basically, he would start to sprint off, and eventually he would have made himself or made his way to the dungeon. As he would do this, he would eventually get cornered. All three of his duplicates would be cornered by the wolves, and basically, at the last attempt, would grab a nearby broken knife that a past adventurer left behind, and he would start to pretty much fight the wolf. He'll be able to get an upper hand on the wolf since of his size and also his superior, what was it? Well, hand-to-hand combat since he does have opposable thumbs. So basically, he would basically be able to take down the wolves. Each of his clones would be able to take down the wolves. His third one would be cornered and would have tripped on his back, basically him about to get mauled, but the other Ditto clones would have jumped in, taken down the wolf. Basically, what happened after that, doing those events or doing that, pretty much right when pretty much Bell would go back to his main form and pretty much rejoin all of his clones back together, basically he would time out. Now, for the next couple days, the next couple hours in the dungeon, he would have started to pretty much train himself fighting against shadow creatures, not minotaurs, but shadow creatures and other pretty much people or creatures in the dungeon. Basically, him train himself at the peak. Basically, him still being bloody and bruised like he was in the original, but him not being as beaten as before since he would mainly take damage in his alien forms. Basically, he would basically train with his other normal 5 transformations, the normal like first 5 aliens been transformed into, and then the other 10, or I mean like the other 5. I'm going to touch on those later on, maybe in part 2. They're basically pretty much doing that. We would see that pretty much Belle would have came back to the house, or pretty much the church, where, well, pretty much the mistress, or I guess the goddess, was there, and basically she would have been waiting for Belle. Now, eventually she would see Belle, and Belle would have showed up, her being very shocked at how injured Belle was. But Belle would have had a smirk on his face, saying, "I found something incredible," basically impinging up his wrist, and the goddess noticing the omnitrix. But after that, Belle would have passed out, and that's where episode 1 leaves off. Now we continue with episode 2. Now basically doing this, we see the next day pretty much, well, the goddess or the mistress pretty much would have been looking at, well, Belle's, well, stats, and they would have gone up tremendously. Basically them being about 2 times better than his canon stats doing episode 2. Basically them going way higher than original. Him getting way higher. He would also have the hero skill, but it would be changed a little bit, tweaked. But basically what would happen is he would have a little higher of a score, and pretty much the goddess would have been kind of, well, was intrigued. But still, she would have seen that it was very good stats, and basically pretty much her saying that, like, why did you power up so much? Basically, she was being kind of confused. But pretty much the rest of the episode would have gone something the same. She would have asked about the omnitrix and how he got it. He would tell her the whole thing and the 5 aliens, the 5 things he transformed into in the dungeon. Basically him describing somewhat of a pyro knight, Ditto, like he said, like the first transformation he transformed into, Ripjaws, it's Ditto, Heat Blast, Ripjaws, Forearms, and Diamond Head. Those are the transformations Belle has. Those are the 5 transformations Belle pretty much, I guess, not mastered, but were able to get a pretty good hand onto it, pretty much doing when he was in the dungeon. Now after that we get hit with the intro, and we skip over the intro because it's intro, but the intro does change a little bit with Belle being shown pretty much scenes of Belle with the Omnitrix, and pretty much scenes of his transformations fighting alongside the other side characters in this anime, stuff like that. Basically what happened is also I may be introducing some Benton villains in this what if you guys don't mind, but if you guys think that's going to be a little bit too complicated, I could just stop it right there. But if you guys think I should introduce Benton villains in this what if, maybe, or some other other Benton villains that might want to go after the Omnitrix, just pretty much, well, go in the comments. But basically what happened is Belle, after this event, pretty much we will see that pretty much, well, Belle. So basically, the rest of the episode would just be Belle being kind of excited because, well, pretty much the mistress or the goddess would have told Belle that his skill has pretty much, well, advanced very fast. Way faster than I expected. Basically, what happened is she would give Belle the same talk. They would mention the omnitrix more than not, and eventually she would tell Belle to be careful with it. Basically, her hearing nothing about this, her just assuming that it was a magical relic or something. Basically, her wanting to tell Belle to keep it on the down low and not use it in public too much, or not use it in front of people too much. But after that, pretty much, well, she would pretty much tell Belle to do your best, blah blah blah. Pretty much just a cheery, light heart. But pretty much, I feel like, man, Belle had no taste in this show. I feel like he had zero taste in women. Like, for real. Every woman that liked him or showed interest in him, he didn't even catch it. Like, for real. I hate these main protagonists that don't notice that when a girl likes them and don't make a move, bro. Like, for real. Belle is such a lovable, kind-hearted guy, but still. Like, he should know it. He should know at one point that girls are hitting on him, bro. Like, for real. He should know. He should know. But yet again, he is a main character. He is a anime protagonist, so obviously he doesn't know jack squat. But basically, what happens is he would go back to the diner, pretty much apologizing for not paying earlier after he ran off. And what happened is pretty much, well, he would still meet the other girl, and pretty much he would get a little bit of a lunch or something, as I guess a gift, and pretty much Belle would have found himself a newfound type of confidence, I guess, with the omnitrix, and he would have found himself more realizing about, well, women features and pretty much their facial expressions. And he would notice that the girl would blush after she gave the present to him. He would have thought nothing much about it, but he would notice that, she blushed, so she had some sort of feeling. Now, basically, pretty much after that, we would see that pretty much Belle would have ran off, and after that, Belle would have been blushing as well. Now, basically, he would go back to the dungeon, or I guess, I think the labyrinth of the dungeon. Basically, him going down there, basically figuring out what's happening and trying to train the omnitrix and more. Now we could switch to pretty much a god party or in this anime universe, basically a party at the elephant god's place. Basically, gods like Greek gods, just any type of anime gods, Greek gods, North mythology, pretty much stuff like that. So basically, mainly Greek gods though. Basically, pretty much Athena, the goddess, and basically pretty much, and Hestia would have been there as well. No, sorry guys, I didn't know her name at the beginning, but now I remember her name is Hestia. Pretty much, Belle's, I guess, love interest. I don't remember they get together at the end of the series, but yet again. So basically, pretty much the same conversation happens between Hestia and Loki, and pretty much stuff like that. So basically, I'm just gonna skip over this event because nothing really drastically changes in this episode. Now we get switched to pretty much Belle, going to, what was it? We switched to Belle pretty much going to the dungeon, and basically we get switched to pretty much, Estia would have still asked the Forger God, basically, or the Forger Goddess, basically to, make her a sword or a knife, begging her to make her a sword or a knife for Belle. But this sword or knife would have been the same, like in canon, but would be a little bit tweaked up because she would have felt like it needed to be a little bit special. Now it would have the same, pretty much, properties as the original dagger, but I'm not gonna get into that later on. Now basically, what happened after that was that pretty much Belle would have been running around trying to find some, low gear, stuff like that, just, make himself better. Now the dagger we get back to the dagger, and basically the dagger would have been exactly the same, but it would have had a green tint on it, basically it having kind of a green bright light when he uses it or when he powers it with his magic. And also, the middle using this blade would have had a very unique, touch on the omnitrix. Basically, it being able to channel access energy from the omnitrix when the omnitrix is powered down. So even if Bell is timed out, the omnitrix can channel is leftover energy before it has to recharge fully, pretty much before it's basically useless for the next 10 minutes. Basically, he has to pretty much the energy when Bell detransforms, that access energy of light is channeled into the blade as kind of a plasma blade or like a heat knife. Basically, being able to cut through things and maybe occasionally shoot pretty much lasers or plasma out of it. But if he shoots it like a projectile, the blade's basically useless and can't use any omnitrix energy. But it's still not useless because it would just have the base abilities as it has in the anime. So yeah, so basically what happened is Bell would have still got the dagger, or pretty much the goddess would have still made the dagger, and stuff would have happened similar the same. Pretty much it happening all the same. Now Bell would have gone back to the diner, and basically would have been told by the cat girl at the diner that pretty much something was going on. Now basically what would happen is pretty much doing this, we said Bell would have been taken to kind of, I guess, a tournament type thing, like pretty much an entertainment type thing with one of the girls from the diner. Basically, as I guess a friend thing. Basically, the tournament would have gone somewhere the same. Basically, Bell eventually pretty much doing his normal day-to-day stuff. Basically, what happened in the rest of episode 2 would have gone similar the same. Bell not using the omnitrix that much throughout the series or without the rest of the episode until the last 8 minutes. Now what would happen is he would still go on a little bit of the date. He would go on the date, or I guess the date with Estia. Esta. I'm gonna call her Estia or Esta. But what happened is Estia or Esta. I probably should say Esta. But basically, Bell and Esta would have pretty much had kind of, I guess, a date. Basically, them just having a normal thing. But eventually, some sort of monkey type animal from the pretty much tournament would have gotten loose and would have started to cause havoc on pretty much the city or the town. Basically, pretty much it looking for Bell because Bell would have had white hair. Well, basically what would happen is Bell would have ran away, and basically at this point he would still be running off. Basically, him not trying to use the omnitrix in public since SDL would have told him not to use it. But basically what would happen is as they were cornered, Bell would have still locked her on the other side, basically him taking the dagger and him running off. As he would do this, he would throw the dagger up into the sky and he would transform into a random alien. He would transform into a new alien. Not a new alien, but one of the aliens he hasn't transformed into yet. Accelerate. Now basically, after he would do this, pretty much he would have been confused on which transformation this was. He would have started to run off, and he would soon quickly realize that this alien had super speed, or some sort of enhanced speed. Basically, Bell would have started to run around, full speed, going up against the monkey, monster. Basically, what happened is he would go against this monkey hybrid or monster, and basically would have started to fight against it. Now, this is where I want to be dipping myself into episode 3. Because anime is the episodes are kind of short and they just want to make you watch more. And basically what happened is episode 3, season 1, would start out similar the same. Pretty much Bell fighting against the, monkey. Or pretty much the white gorilla monster. Now basically what he would do against this monster, he would start to run circles around it. He would start to run circles around it, basically hitting it left and right in the legs, and again and again and again, making a whole speed tornado around it. What would happen when Bell was fighting against the pretty much monster, he would again pushed back into a wall, him having a flashback of him younger, of his grandfather. Now basically after that, Bell would have been smacked out of that flashback, him getting back into reality. As he would wake up, he would grab the blade, basically grabbing it in his hand or in his claws, basically putting it in his mouth and pretty much running around with it. He would have sliced the animal using his head to pretty much move the blade, pretty much him running around left and right. And basically what happened is he would have started to kick the animal left and right, making wind cyclones around it and again and again and again. Eventually he would be able to overpower the animal, and eventually the animal would have been overpowered and would have started to gone down. Eventually Bell would have been wasting a lot of time the whole entire cyclone speed thing, so he would eventually time out as he was running. He would fall down to the ground, and basically he would grab the knife before it fell on the ground, and basically when he detransformed, the energy conjured itself into his blade, and he would have felt this. He would have felt like he had the same, I guess, feel to the omnitrix it had, or the same feel it had compared to the omnitrix. Basically, it was just plot armor, I guess. Just plot. Now, basically, what happened is Bell, when he started to fight against the animal or the monster, basically the rest of the episode, the rest of the fight going kind of like in canon. Basically, Bell sacrificing himself. Now, the animal would have been slightly weakened, so it wouldn't take that much effort from Bell to take out the animal. As he would take out the animal, basically he would start to pretty much slash at it, cut at it, and eventually when he stabbed into it, a pulse of pretty much omni energy blasted out of the blade, basically releasing it into a indiscriminatory blast. It would have been dampened by the animal's flesh and basically would have destroyed it, leaving behind the giant crystal. After that, we see that pretty much Bell would have put the knife away, would have checked up on Estia, and basically after that, pretty much he would have been checked on his stats. Pretty much Estia would have said that his stats were getting way better and that they gotten bigger. And basically after this, pretty much Bell would have been declared kind of like a hero, I guess. Basically after that, pretty much him staying the night at the diner, and basically him being, came across where he gets, talked to by, one of the girl that has a crush on him at the diner. As he'll talk back to her, he'll be sitting in the pretty much room next to Estia. Basically, Estia sitting down and pretty much talking to Bell, and eventually she would have kind of flirted with Bell. Bell picking up on this, but since he would be, Bell, he would have just shrugged it off. Now, basically, what happened after this, we see that Bell, afterwards, would have started to cry, apologizing to Estia on why he left her behind. But after that, we would get switched to an adventurer with his sidekick, basically the next side character for the anime for episode 4. I'm gonna get into episode 4. 5 or 6 until part 2, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe, and I really hope you guys like this video. It took me about 2 days, or not, it actually took me a week because I took a break on the 7-minute and 44-second mark of this video, and I restarted it, I think, because I started recording it on, I think, Friday. And then I'm continuing recording it on Tuesday after President's Day. So, yeah. So, basically, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. As always, guys, have a blessed day. Go with the comments and tell me if you want a specific made-up alien. Because if you guys have any ideas for a made-up alien that Bell should have access to, go in my comments. I'll see you guys later. Bye. As always, guys, have a blessed day.